Hello, can anybody hear me? Whoa, that echoes.
Hello, hello, hello.
Probably a group of people sitting at a train station. Hackney, GB, 1820. Probably a group of people processing. 2 items detected. Move your finger over share. Person. Share. Person. Share. Person.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. If you could please start finding seats and making yourself comfortable, we will be beginning very shortly. Hi. Please do come grab your seats. We want to start any minute now. We've got a very packed agenda, so as soon as you can, come. There are seats for everyone. Thanks.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Do you guys want to come and be seated so we can start on time? Okay, thank you, everyone. Do you want to come and grab a seat? Great. Thank you. Sorry. Can everyone make a way? Do you want to make? Great. Thank you. Shall we make? Yes.
Speak.
No.
He's come back. Speak further.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you've got your hat. Oh, have you sponsored us? Oh, we're wearing hats for brain tumour research tomorrow. So your poll meant nothing. So we've got to be short. We've got to be off by 7, no matter what. What sign do you want me to give you? Because I'll need like 2 minutes. I'll need 2 minutes.
As long as you want, I can.
No. After you finish. So what I'm saying is, I'll do
2
my
minutes.
5.
Yeah, what am I
So when it's 2 minutes, what do you want me to do? What hand signal?
Yeah, give me a thumbs up.
I'll
Okay,
press
thank
it
you,
there.
everyone.
So that means.
Thank you. It's amazing to see so many of you turned up to this AI for Accessibility Meetup event. Quick intro. So I am Dr. Mufajjal Ali. I'm a cloud solution architect specializing in AI. And we have Holly, who's done amazing work in organizing and doing a lot of the running around, as well as Ben from Sopra. Again, great job. So one of the key AI strategy for Microsoft is democratizing AI. What that basically means is whether you're a developer or a data scientist or data engineer or a data analyst, there's a tool or a solution that we have, whether it's out of the box or a custom solution. Today we've got lots of AI-based solution you'll see in the area of accessibility, and you'll see how this true AI for accessibility comes from Microsoft's cognitive services and also custom solutions as well. Okay, so here's some hashtag. In terms of agenda, so first up we have AI for Accessibility Initiative. So Eve and Hector from the CELA team will talk about some of the amazing stuff that we're doing in this area. And then this will follow by a couple of initiatives in the AI for accessibility cohort. So we have the upstream head of WeWork, and Immersive Rehab will be presenting some of the amazing work that they're doing in this area. Then we'll have 7:15 to 7:30 a demo area, so you can go around and have a look at some of the work that they have done. In the same time, you can take a break as well. Then we have Professor Aldo from Imperial College, and he'll talk about self-driving AI wheelchair, which is quite fascinating, actually, the work that he's been doing in that space. And then we have Sakim from Microsoft, and he'll talk about seeing the AI projects and how it has been, not impacting how he has supporting his day-to-day life. He's having a real impact, real value in his day-to-day job. And then finally, we'll have the AI for common good by my dear friend here. And then you'll have time for some networking. So can I call up on the stage for Eve and Hector? Thank you.
Sure. Sorry, just to make a quick intro as well. I am on. So I'm Ben Gilbert as well. I have come from the AI Ethics London community as well. I'll be very quick because we are about 3 minutes behind time. There has been a slight change to the agenda there. So where I've got myself on the bottom, that's going to be changing to Matthew Johnson from ThoughtWorks. Just much more of an expert on this topic than I am myself. If by some miracle we end up half an hour ahead on time, I will speak as well. I don't expect that will happen. We're already failing at that idea. So this, for me, it's been a great learning experience running this event as well. Speaking to a lot of different people who were presenting on AI for accessibility. I initially did not consider myself how I was going to make this event more accessible. So I feel as though I've learned and hopefully become better through planning this as well. I hope to learn from you all as well as this goes on. And this is a trend I want us to continue for future events as well. But trying to keep on time, without further ado, Hector and Eve.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. I am on a microphone. Okay, so I have the great role of firstly thanking you all for coming along today. This is a really important topic, and it is amazing to see so many people in the room. I'm also going to introduce myself. So I am Eve Joseph, and I am the UK Responsibility Manager at Microsoft, which is not a job title everyone wanted when they grew up. They did not want to be responsible, and they probably didn't want to be a manager. But that's my role, and I take care of a number of our CSR objectives within Microsoft, and I'm going to talk to you about a few of those for the first 5 minutes today. And then I'm going to hand over to Hector, who is our European Accessibility Evangelist, much more knowledgeable specifically in the area of accessibility. He's been working in the topic for 19 years, since he was 10. Then I'll hand over to Hector to give you a bit more insight, and then I'll come back and talk to you a bit more about the cohort. So on the screen, we've got a welcome, we've got a hello for anyone that's new to Microsoft. Thank you for coming along and joining us today. It's great to partner with Ben and the Azure team on this meetup. But also a welcome back and hello again. I'm seeing a few familiar faces in the room. So thank you for giving us your continued support on this topic. And just very finally, before I move on, there's a URL at the bottom. Does anyone know what tomorrow is? No. Someone's birthday? Brexit. Oh, Let's brush that under the carpet. The BBC are going to have a big hole in their schedule tomorrow, aren't they? No, tomorrow is actually Wear a Hat Day. And the cohort that I'll be talking to you about shortly, we're actually trying to raise money for brain tumour research, which is very a cause dear to a number of people that work in this space. So hence why I'm wearing a woolly hat. I don't usually wear a woolly hat in the middle of, the early spring. So you'll see a few hats rolling around, and that's why. If you wanted to donate to support us, that is the URL at the bottom, aka.ms/wear a hat, and every £1 you donate will be matched by Microsoft 100%. So you only have to give £2.50, and you've really given a fiver. But anyway, that's my last plug. So what was I asked to do today? I was asked to kind of set the context a bit around Microsoft and why you're all in a Microsoft building and why Microsoft are on the agenda. You can see here that our mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And I can't tell you enough how much that is ingrained within the culture within Microsoft across our leadership, across our employees, and as much across the work that we're trying to do as an organization. And this mission really changed when Satya Nadella joined us as our CEO. And if any of you don't follow him, I would recommend you look at some of the insights and some of the blogs that he writes about the work that he does. Our accessibility work has been on a journey since he has joined us, and it has kind of gone from here to here. And I'm very proud to say that I think he is one of the best leaders in running tech at the moment. And part of that is because of his focus on accessibility as a key pillar of our mission, because he really means every person. So what better way to kind of share with you this quote, and I'll read it out for those of you at the back. To really make a difference, it's not enough to build great products and services. Living up to our mission also depends on how well we apply our technology, talent, and financial resources to foster opportunity and serve the needs of communities around the globe where our employees, partners, and customers live. Now, what does that mean in reality? So corporations like ourselves, tech companies, we have a responsibility to help individuals with the issues that are affecting us on the planet at the moment. We have a responsibility, and we also have an opportunity. And we think that technology is a force for good, but it really is only going to be used by everyone if everyone can gain access to it. And that's just not the case at the moment. There are about 1 billion people on the planet that still do not have access to the internet. There are even more across both developed and developing countries that actually don't have the digital skills to interact with that tech. So even if we could take them a great piece of technology, they don't have the skills or the capability to perhaps interact with that. So as an organization, we believe it's up to us to stand with others and try and move this technology forward. And the reason why I really like this slide is, hands up who loves PowerPoint? Oh my goodness, like 4 people. Who tolerates it? Okay, I'm going to show you the ultimate reason why PowerPoint exists, and it's for this one slide. So I'm just going to let it build for a second. Okay, this is why transitions in PowerPoint were invented. On this side of the slide, right, who doesn't want to live here? Who doesn't want to live with a plunge pool on their balcony, with a tennis court in their garden, all these kind of amazing things happening? On literally the other side of the fence are favelas. And this is a real photo. We haven't genetically modified it or engineered it or used Photoshop. This is real. And the reason why I talk about this so much is it's really important, and that everyone in this room thinks that we do want to advance technology. I mean, who here in the room is a software engineer or a developer? Okay, cool, we've got a few. Who here is from academia? Okay, brilliant. Anyone from a charity or an NGO that we've got? Yes, amazing. Anyone just a general technologist, just enjoys technology but isn't necessarily a coder? Amazing. Finally, who here is from a business, a corporation, private sector company? Wow. Okay, so what we've seen from that is that there are so many different facets of society that care about this topic. And this is why, because you are all here, because you don't want to create this divide in the digital world, right? We don't want to see on one side of the fence those that can, and on the other side of the fence those that can't. We don't want to see those that can afford it and those that can't afford it. And I think events like this are super important for us all to get together and discuss why this is such an important topic. So now I've kind of shown you the power of transitions. Just if any of you are kind of interested in how we bring our CSR, our corporate social responsibility, to life within Microsoft, we split it under 3 key pillars. So we think about how we can empower people, how we can strengthen communities, and how we can also protect our planet. Now, accessibility underpins all of these topics that we work on, especially around empowering people. If we're going to bring our mission to life, if we're going to live the future that AI wants us to see, it's important that we empower every single person on the planet to utilize the technology that we're creating. Within strengthening communities, it's all how can our technology be used as a platform? So we work on projects with lots of NGOs, with charities, with schools, and we're really trying to encourage the next generation of technologists to start innovating and inventing different ways of utilizing technology. We also really want to speak for a number of the underserved. So there are a number of different initiatives we do to support those, working with young people to kind of improve their access to digital skills training, to computer science. Computer science is still not on the curriculum in many other countries. In the UK, we were the first, which was great, but it's still not there in others. And then finally, protecting our planet, which kind of goes without saying. You can't go anywhere now without realizing that actually maybe humans are the problem. But that's for another event. In order to bring this to life, it's important that we take a number of different organizations with us. Actually, the one thing I didn't mention was government. Is there anyone in here from government? One. Okay, couple. Brilliant. It's important that we ask government to come and join us. And this is a book. So Microsoft actually wrote a book. We're not all digital, although there is a digital version if you want to download it. And you can use a screen reader to read the entire book. I have tried to do it. And this is called A Cloud for Global Good. And it's all about how we can create a trusted, a responsible, and inclusive cloud. And I think they're probably thinking about you guys attending today. There might be some useful paragraphs and chapters in there that you might want to review. Just finally, before I hand over to Hector, there is a movement called Tech for Good in the UK, which many of you are probably part of. This is not created by Microsoft, we are just part of it, and there are amazing organizations doing amazing things for Tech for Good. People like the Social Tech Trust, The Tech Trust, AbilityNet, CAST, Nominet, Reason Digital. There's so many that I could name, and sorry if there's someone in the room that I haven't name dropped, but if you're interested in this topic and you want to learn more, I would recommend following this on the Meetup platform, but also just follow the hashtag on Twitter, and you'll find lots of different people that are interested in this topic and want to take it further. So finally, this is where, Hector, you're going to come up shortly. How have we brought all this to life? We realized that there was an innovation that was happening in the world around AI. But we also thought it needs to be done in those ways. It needs to be responsible, it needs to be inclusive, and it needs to be trusted. And we've come out the gates pretty early as Microsoft to say that we want to lead in this area and make sure that anyone that is developing on AI, it is done in the most responsible and ethical manner. We have 6 key principles that we adhere to when we're trying to create ethical systems. We have an internal team called Ether, which stands for AI and Ethical Review Board. And I was talking to someone earlier, and I still don't know what the T and the H stand for in the middle. But we have a committee within Microsoft, and any Microsoft organization that wants to create AI has to kind of put that through the Ether committee and make sure that it hits all of those 6 key principles. And we've created this AI for Good program because we realize that there are 3 key issues facing the world at the moment under Earth, accessibility, and humanitarian. And we really want to drill down into this. So it's a $115 million program over the next 5 years, and we want to invest in organizations. Whether you're an NGO, a charity, basically anyone in this room could come to us and say, look, I want to work on this project and work on this with you. Can you help us deliver that? So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Hector, and I'll come back shortly to introduce you to our cohort.
Thank you so much.
I think so.
Can you hear me over the speakers? Is it on?
I don't know.
Is it on? There's somebody call the AV guy. I'll shout in the meantime.
Do you want to use this?
Should we use that? Hello, hello, hello. Still
Try
no?
again. Try again with it.
Hello? Yeah. That's going now? Okay. Right, good evening. Let's start with hello. I will just start by warning you that once you've invested in accessibility as a topic, you never leave. It is one of those topics that, I fell out of university 20 years ago. My first job was working with people with severe physical disabilities who couldn't access books. And the first piece of equipment that I sold as a sales rep driving around the country, meeting people with disabilities, was called a QED page turner. And I think it's only EA in the room who will remember this, or maybe a couple of people from AbilityNet. But the way it worked was this. Books were designed in the wrong way for people. If you can't physically turn the pages, then books just don't work. And this was before Kindle, and before ebooks. And so you had this device with a switch, the head switch here. You used to click a button, and then it would invoke a vacuum pump, literally a sucking vacuum pump, suck the top page, a car aerial. You don't even remember what car aerials are. Yeah, we don't even have them anymore. But a retractable car aerial swept round 360 degrees, and if you were lucky, it took 1 page. And thank you, I'm on. Good. Am I on? Yeah. Okay. And that was the first device that I ever went out with, but it was liberating for people who couldn't read the newspaper and couldn't read books. Remember, this was before the internet was anything worth talking about. This was before the BBC website. And yet, then I meant to meet a guy who lived in Golders Green who was reading his Hebrew texts, And we worked out that it only turned pages from right to left, or from left to right. And we went, this is great, you can use it, but we haven't designed one for you. And I can't think of a better example of what we might term inclusive design. If you're not aware that somebody exists in the world who reads their books from right to left, you're going to design your product wrong. And that's where we are with disability. I genuinely feel when I joined Microsoft 2.5 years ago, I've worked 20 years in very specialist small technology companies, startups, and I never thought I would get to Microsoft. But it's actually disability got to Microsoft. You know, it finally reached the big companies where they recognize that technology is reaching further into society than ever before. You know, you can't live without technology now. It used to be a device, you used to go to work to use technology, or you used to go to education to use technology. Now technology is pervasive. So how can we leave people with disabilities behind? We can't. It's like nobody is going to be able to design future technology without recognizing the more diverse set of users who need it. And so I joined Microsoft, but what I didn't realize was just how much AI was going to be an important part of the things that I talked about. We have a new toolkit. We call it Azure, okay? Other people have other toolkits. But essentially, we have a whole new list of tools available to you all to reimagine the way that people access technology. And they are machine learning, computer vision, speech to text, text to speech. And when you meet somebody with a disability and you say, computers can now talk, see, hear, think, when you have a disability, you think about that in a completely different way. And you'll hear from Sakib later on. I don't think there's any better. You're so lucky to have Sakib here today. There is no better example of where somebody goes, I know exactly what I want that to do for me. But if you don't have that representation of disability in your workforce, you won't get that innovation. So this is also a diversity and inclusion agenda here. We need to make sure people with disabilities are represented, and then the magic happens. So I'm going to show you a few examples of magic, genuine magic, that all of you will benefit from that comes from disability in Microsoft. And it's coming because people with disabilities are leading the innovation at Microsoft. And the first one is PowerPoint Designer. Eve did a great job making sure you all hate PowerPoint at the start of the Microsoft event. Thank you, Eve. But here we have a blank presentation slide. Okay? Now, we are here to, let's just talk about our shopping list. Okay, and so we're going to put in bananas, and we're going to put apples, and we're going to put Coke, let's put fizzy drink. Let's see if this works. It doesn't always work. And we're going to have some toilet roll. Yeah, we've got to remember toilet roll. Ooh. Now, I could have dictated that in, actually, in Office 365, so it's got dictation built in now. But on the right-hand side of the screen, we have something called Design Ideas. And Design Ideas basically looks through the content of my slides, and it's not working for me at the moment, love it, and basically designs, it looks at my content and says, I'm going to make your slide look like this. Now, if this starts working properly for me in a minute, it actually starts pulling icons out at this point and starts giving you picture representations. But it analyzes your slides. If I put a photo in, oh, hang on, insert online picture. We're going to search for shopping, find an image. Let's do this one. And insert it. And it starts rethinking how my slide might look with a photo in it. Yeah? And so it might start to look like this. OK. Now, this, how many clicks did it take me to create that slide? Very few. I put pictures in, I typed my text in, but how many clicks would it have taken you to create a slide that looked as beautiful as that? You wouldn't have bothered. That's the truth of it. So what you tend to do is have slides that kind of constantly look the same, or you use themes or templates. We're now using AI in PowerPoint to generate the content for you, but this came from employees at Microsoft with muscular dystrophy, working with the product teams. They literally sat with the product teams and said, why does it take me 83 clicks to create a great slide? You might be able to knock out those 83 clicks really quickly, but when you have a physical disability, you just don't bother. At that point, the blind colleagues turned around and went, what? I can just click the first option and always have beautiful content? Yes. Yeah? So this is inclusive design. This is when we actually look at solving one problem, but then another group looks at it and goes, wow, that's extremely useful for me. And then there are the design challenged amongst us. I'll put both my hands up on this one, who would never create great-looking slides like that. This came from disability. OK. So that's called PowerPoint Designer. We also have live captions and subtitles in PowerPoint now. Now, if you haven't tried these out, I would absolutely give them a go. Every single PowerPoint presentation that you go to. How many of you have an amazing Aula available to you in your workplace? Available to have captions in meetings and make sure that people who are deaf have the captions available to them? Well, we have access to work and people can absolutely get that, but how many people are routinely seeing captions in public meetings? It just doesn't exist. People don't know that that's readily available. Well, that is now part of PowerPoint. But you can also, at the same point, have it translated into 60+ languages at the same time. So if you have a delegation in government coming over to visit you from China, you can just say, we'll have some live translation into Mandarin. And we're making sure that we're routinely including people. But of course, it's the deaf community at Microsoft that are driving and making sure that this is finally landing in PowerPoint. We've got a great demo area here later where people will be able to show you these things in action. Accessibility almost always leads to greater productivity. I'm flicking into a product we have called Stream. This is in-house video repository. Is anybody using it yet? I know you are. Thank you for coming. You can do the demos later. This is where you keep your videos in work. So in Teams or Skype for Business, you record your video of your meeting, you record your collaboration with your team, you save it automatically to Stream. Okay? That's the default place to save it now. And what happens is it automatically transcribes it here. Okay? So it automatically transcribes and gives captions in all video. The beauty in a business sense or in a productivity sense is that entire content is searchable. So when we search, if I type in, I'm going to see Barclays Bank for a meeting about accessibility, before I go, I type in Barclays and I find the last 5 people who've recorded a meeting where they're talking about Barclays. Yeah? And I go straight to the point of the meeting where they spoke about Barclays because I can just click on it and I go straight to that point. Can you imagine when we were at university, some of you are probably still at university, but imagine being able to go to your lectures, your recorded lectures, and go straight to the point where they were looking at covalent bonding in benzene. Imagine being able to go straight to that part of the video. Now, this is a byproduct of the accessibility that we're building in to Office. Nobody started that project going, let's make video searchable by transcript. They said, let's make sure we've got captions and translation available to people. And then they went, oh my God, we can search this stuff. We can export this stuff. We can take it out of there and bring it to Windows and have captioned video wherever we go. Yeah? And this is all built in as standard, but it only happens because of AI. We're using the AI to do the speech detection, yeah, to create the transcription, but we're going even further. This was announced last year at Build. There's more news coming for this year's Build, so be on the lookout for this one. This is going to be amazing. I'm not done 5 minutes. She took at least 5 more minutes of my time. Okay, let's crack on. This is Build. There's an object in the middle of this meeting, yeah, which is essentially a conference phone, but it's a conference phone with face detection built in. Okay? So it's transcribing the meeting, it's live captioning for people who are deaf. This girl here is deaf, and it's live translating for her. It's translating into a different language for other people who are joining the call from another country. It's doing face detection so they can see who's saying what at what point in the meeting. And it's using Cortana to take promises that were made in the meeting so you can write the minutes up. So when somebody in the meeting says, I'll make sure I send those minutes around at 4 o'clock, Cortana goes, we know you said that. Face detection, who said it, and gives some minutes at the end of the meeting. This is amazing. How many meetings have we gone to where people go, what did we talk about? Yeah, we're not good at taking minutes anymore. So this is where AI is going to start picking up the weight of maybe some of the things that we've stopped doing so well. And another example is alt text. Who knows, and just a quick show of hands, who knows what alt text is? That's great. You know your developers when you got everyone to alt text, but you know it from a web perspective, I'm guessing. Yeah, when you're designing websites, the descriptions, behind the image used by people who are blind, so that when they're using a screen reader, it tells them what the photos are. How many of you put alt text in a document recently? A much smaller number. So here's the other move. You can't just make the web accessible. All documents need to be accessible as well. What's the point in sending around an email around my team when 6 members of my team are blind and I don't have descriptions behind my images? Okay, so then let's create an onerous task for me then to put image descriptions in, but actually AI is doing it. Machine learning is brilliant for image description. Yeah? Even just a first basic go at it. It might not convey the exact meaning you wanted to give, but now routinely over 5 million images, I believe, have been labeled in PowerPoint and Office more widely in Outlook for people who are blind without people even knowing it. Most of your colleagues don't even know what alt text is. But AI is going to routinely put labels behind images for people that are blind in all of the documents in your workspace. That's what AI is doing, but the only reason we made that happen is because of the representation of people who are blind in Microsoft. People saying, we can do this now, and actually we should do this. Word prediction is now in Windows, and that's using AI. Now, in the last couple of minutes, and we've got loads more demo to give in the demo area, so I'm hanging around, so come and talk to us, and we'll do lots of great demo with you. But we're funding some of this. So there's a call to action here. We are putting artificial intelligence into our own products. Okay? We're putting it into Office, putting it into Windows. Azure is there for you to go and use these tools, but we want you to put it into your projects. But we want you to do it with a lens of disability. But remember, when you focus on disability, you're going to unlock productivity, imagination, innovation. You're going to find new ways of doing things. Yeah? But we're funding 3 pillars within what we call the AI for Accessibility program. There is $25 million of Azure credit up for grabs and consultancy for you to go and build the products of the future that impact disability for employment. The disability employment gap is double. Yeah, you're twice as likely to be unemployed if you've got a disability. Access to daily life, just designing people with disabilities using AI into the routine things that we all enjoy. And human communication. So we obviously are going to talk a lot about that later on today. I'm going to flip through these slides. We always run out of time. 30 minutes is not enough for an Eve Hector show. You know, that's not going to work. I want to just give you a quick example of one, and I'll really rush through this. Let's not just look at this from, London, and let's not even look at it from corporate Western Europe. Okay, let's look at this from the perspective of people with disabilities all around the world. The simple fact of the matter is that if you've got a speech disability in Romania, there are simply not enough speech therapists to help you. In fact, I was working in China in my previous job. A speech therapist isn't even a profession in China. So it's like, how do you solve a problem when people don't even know that this is a thing? Yeah? We are funding this project in Romania. This is to help kids with speech disabilities in Romania access speech therapy exercises online using AI to analyze their unclear speech and give them exercises to get their speech going. Okay? But it's being led by a team in Romania because they just simply don't have this in Romania. The need is there. It has to be delivered by cloud. You know that Romanian is one of those languages where we don't have speech to text. Sorry, text to speech. So what do you think is going to be the outcome of this project? We're going to have some amazing Romanian text to speech. So it's disability, but it's actually going to end up plugging a gap for something that we're missing. So these are the sorts of projects that we're funding that we think can be scaled. I'm going to hand back over to Eve, and I'll thank you, and I'll see you back in Saqib's section later on. Thank you.
Okay, so me and my woolly hat, I'm getting really rather hot in this, are back. So what we wanted to talk to you and introduce you to now is Hector has mentioned that there is funding and we have the AI for Accessibility program that we're running currently. And what we wanted to do in the UK was kind of bring this to life and reach out to organisations who are actually working in this space. And I'm delighted that 3 of them have been able to join us today and showcase to you what they're doing with their technology with accessibility. You can see here that 11 ventures have joined us on this journey. We're focusing on the 2 key areas, which are Earth and accessibility. So we have 7 in the accessibility world, and we have 4 focusing on Earth. And they are all organizations that either have a product already or are about to build one to focus on these 2 key areas and kind of make the world a more accessible place. And on this partnership, we're working with the Social Tech Trust, and Annie is here sporting her woolly hat as well. We've partnered with the Social Tech Trust on this, and they are bringing together a curriculum all around. Actually, when you have tech and you have a great idea and you have a great solution, how do you actually think about the impact you're going to bring to society with that? There's actually a hell of a lot of work and a lot of thought that needs to go into that as an organization. So without further ado, these are all the organizations that have joined us on this AI for Good cohort. And this is how beautiful they all look. And these are the 3 that have joined us today. So we have Immersive Rehab, WeWalk, and Upstream. And I'll invite them all up in a second. And they're all going to talk to you for about 3 minutes on what it is that they're doing. They're going to tell you their story of their organization, and hopefully you'll feel inspired, but also you'll want to learn more. So afterwards, I'll come back up, and we've actually set them up behind you. You'll have seen some demos. So if there's one in particular or more that you want to go and explore a bit more, they're all here in the break to talk to you about what they're doing. And then we've also got a demo table with some of our amazing accessible technology gurus. And I'm looking at Angela now to see if she'll wave at me. No, she's not listening. Brilliant. They are sitting there and they're going to be doing some demos on our Office and Windows capability. So if any of you are interested in learning a bit more about some of the tech, you can do that there. So I think first up, it's Isabel from Immersive Rehab. So let me just make sure this is working. Amazing.
Thanks.
The floor is
Thanks,
yours.
Steve. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. So I'm the founder of Immersive Rehab. Hi. I just wanted to ask you something. Could you all put up your thumb, please? Could you move it? And could you close your eyes now and do the same thing? It's easy, right? So a lot of people actually that have a disability such as stroke, they can't do it anymore because essentially the connection between their brain and their arm motion has been broken. So that's why I created also Immersive Rehab, is to help those people recover quicker. Myself, 9 years ago, I had a severe work accident that basically took away my independence in a second, and I had very poor balance for a couple of years and went through a long recovery myself. And so I started, often rehab was very boring and demotivating in the way it was being done, and so I wanted to change that by using technology, and I started looking into different conditions such as stroke, spinal cord injury, MS, and the gain in rehab, in upper limb rehab in particular, is very poor. So people would leave the hospital with hardly any gains. They might potentially walk again, but because they have hardly any upper limb ability, they actually are not able to lead an independent life. So that's why I started looking deeper into how can we use technology to change that. And that's basically where virtual reality comes in. With virtual reality, we can actually, currently when patients go to through rehab, the physios don't let them engage with objects anymore because they have lack of strength, fine motor skills. So when physios ask them to move an object from here to there, they would actually either not be able to do it, or they get really frustrated because it's really a struggle for them. So in VR, we can actually allow people to engage with objects in these very early stages of their rehab, make it very engaging for them to do the exercises rather than doing 20 times this movement, 20 times that movement. We actually give them a challenge. We give them a challenge. They don't think about the movements that they're doing, but they're still doing the movements that they should be doing on a daily basis. And the compliance, the aim is really to get that compliance up to what it is now. Today it's very bad, the compliance in upper limb rehab. Also, the access to rehab is really limited. So hospitals have reached out. They have waiting times up to 9 months. Even in the acute ward sometimes. So with VR, we can actually bring it into an acute ward before, for example, some complex spine injury patients are moved into a very specialized facility. And the aim really is to create a tool for physios to use it initially in the acute phases with their patients in the hospital, and then move it into the home setting as well, so that physios can follow from afar how patients are doing in between sessions. And that's really where machine learning comes in, because what we want to create is adaptive environments and personalized environments to patients, because no condition in neurological disorders are the same. Every patient has so let's say 2 patients would start a similar program, but one patient advances quicker than the other. It wouldn't make sense that they still follow the same program. So that's really where machine learning will come in, because we can have the program learn from the patient already in the clinic. It will be a very important aspect, but especially when it's going into the home setting, because people, it will become a more autonomous system where actually physios will rely on how the system is learning from the patient, and they will still tweak the platform for the patient. And especially also tune in to get a really objective assessment, which currently is also lacking. A lot of the assessments from patients are very subjective, basically. And so that's really what we aim to do, is to create a very accessible tool, both for physios and for patients in the longer term, then for them to recover better and just gain more of their independence back and live an independent life. So please join us, and yeah, thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you. Amazing stuff. Okay, next up is Darren from Upstream.
I feel like I'm in a relay here, or maybe at a kid's party where you need to put your hat on and run up. So I'm Darren from Upstream, the founder of Upstream. We're a preventive care organisation that's on a mission really to keep people well. So we believe that prevention is better than the cure. The new product I'm talking about today is called Bridget. Oh, no slides, that's fine. So Bridget's a product that's come about from my background. So I was working in a community care centre, looking after a team of nurses that were really looking at using analytics and machine learning to find those patients at risk of being admitted into acutes. We found those patients and then we rang them up and we spoke to them and we worked on care plans remotely, but we didn't have access to the insight of what's actually happening in their homes to make a real difference. So at the time, we did what we could. We looked around and there's lots of home monitoring solutions out there for that demographic. But those home monitoring solutions weren't really right for the people we were looking at. So, in linking to the agenda really, who in this room's got internet in the homes? Pretty much everyone. And who's got a mobile phone? I guess pretty much everyone in this room, right? But in our home region, in Humberside and in East Midlands, 85% of our target demographic, those people that are frail, elderly and excluded, don't have internet. Those people don't have mobile phones. And I've been one of the culprits of building apps for people that never use them. And I'm sure there's a few people in this room that have done the same, right? And we need to stop doing that. So we decided to really shift the paradigm and say, well, there's 2 million people, like my granddad Dougie, who wants to be well, wants to stay in his home, doesn't want to be within the care system, doesn't want lots of intrusive devices around his house, but wants some additional support. So we set out on a mission 6 months ago to build something new. So we built Bridget. So Bridget is a IoT sensor device that connects through the Assure services, sending key information. So she takes about 40 different data points from around my granddad's house and from him. So simple stuff like, is my granddad in the house and is he up and has he had a cup of tea? Simple stuff like that. Through to, is he in the house and he's got no heating on? So we need to alert a care professional to get out there and provide support. Through to stuff that we're looking at now in terms of using air quality information within his kitchen to look at that and asthma onset. And in the future with Microsoft, we're looking at using this for anomaly detection, to look at potential things that we can inform the clinician about where it's abnormal and it's not normal profile for the patient. So it's quite exciting times for us. We're deploying Bridget to the first 100 homes in Humber next month. And if anybody wants more information about Bridget, then come and see me over there. Thanks, guys.
Okay, and lastly, but by no means least, we have Gökhan and Jean-Marc from WeWalk. So I'll give you the microphone.
Hello, my name is Gökhan. We are coming from WeWalk team, and WeWalk is a spin-off from YGA. YGA is a NGO established in 2000 in Turkey, and we have been focusing on tech-driven social innovations, and we have been focusing on assistive technologies for and with visually impaired people for over 10 years. And our first solution is a platform called My Dream Companion. It's basically a platform which consists of different capabilities. The first of all, we began with audio services like audiobooks, news, daily columns, and magazines. On top of that, we developed an audio description solution. So the app listens movies, especially in movie theaters, and automatically in real time it describes the silent scene. So basically, with the help of this application, all movie theaters become accessible with the help of this. And also on top of that, we developed an indoor navigation solution, and we covered around 2 million square meters, so indoor spaces become accessible for visually impaired people, and we are happily following Wayfinder standard in our solutions. And also we developed a smart bus transportation system, which enables visually impaired people to use bus transportation in a much more effective way, with communication with driver and learning from which bus will be passed through that station. But after addressing this kind of solutions, we find that they are not enough, and we want to implement a hardware solution. So we did a hackathon 2 years ago, and the WeWalk idea came through, and my colleague Jean-Marc will explain it.
Sure. Hey, so the White Cane's been a ubiquitous tool for people with a visual impairment, and what we wanted to do was we wanted to revolutionize what the White Cane can do, whilst only evolutionizing the way that visually impaired people would have to interact with it. And this is what we've come up with. So this is actually my own personal cane. It's an attachment that just attaches on to absolutely any white cane, and when it's off, I can just use this as I typically would use a cane for obstacle detection straight in front of me. But once I turn on this little utility, the first thing I have is an ultrasound sensor. So when branches come up in front of me, or absolutely anything that the cane wouldn't immediately detect, I know, hey, I've got to take a pause back, see what's in front of me, and then proceed. But in partnership with our mobile application, which the cane connects to via Bluetooth, we can make full use of the cane's gyroscope, accelerometer, its touchpad, and its built-in microphone. So I can actually directly interact with the mobile application to get indoor navigation via our own bespoke system with the Wayfinder standard, as well as seamless navigation with Google Maps, which is an outdoor navigation system. Moreover, we also have Alexa integration, so users have a huge platform of voice commands that they can access naturally and reliably. One of the important things is that people with a visual impairment have a huge range of visual impairments. So I have retinal dystrophy, some people have macular degeneration, glaucoma. Everyone uses their cane differently and has different levels of mobility. And well, we tried to cater to that. So the ultrasound sensor actually has different levels of sensitivity. Moreover, the application, you can select in the application what features of the cane you'd like to use, such as the indoor navigation, how you'd like to interact with it, and the menus that you'd like to access. And this has led on to the open platform, which we have in the cane, or we can actually make use of Microsoft's AI platform to further augment the voice navigation to allow for more seamless user cases, as well as actually learn how people use the cane, collecting that data to improve our service. And this has gotten a lot of attention from different organizations. So the Royal National Institute for the Blind, the Royal Society for Blind Children, and even my own PhD research at Imperial College, which looks at the evacuation and mobility of people with a visual impairment. So yeah, it's really exciting stuff. I want to say a massive, massive thank you to absolutely everyone here, to Microsoft for having us here. You guys are an absolute inspiration, and I cannot wait to see how we can make the world a better place. So thank you so much.
That is, is this on? Can we just have another round of applause for all three of us? They are just 3 of the 11 organisations that we're working with, and we are working with here in this building downstairs. We had someone that came to speak the other week, and they were like, I had no idea so many amazing people could be hidden in a basement in the middle of London. So yeah, we're oh, blimey. I do not need to be that loud. So we're working with 11 organisations. They'll be working with us until June. If you want to follow the story that we're working on, you can find any of them on Twitter. You can find us on LinkedIn following Microsoft Startups for Europe. And you can also engage with the Social Tech Trust online as well. We're trying to share the journey as we go through it, because we realise there's many of you in the room who are all probably thinking of doing something similar. So the reason we got them to come up here and talk to you is hopefully so you'll feel inspired, you'll learn, or you'll be like, oh gosh, I can help them. So without further ado, I think it's my job. I'm looking at Muffy. Are we on time? Yes, amazing. So we have 15 minutes. I will ask Gökhan, Darren and Isabel just to kind of shoot off quickly and set up camp. But please do go and spend some time with them. We have 15 minutes for you to go and talk to the ventures, talk to our tech specialists. Again, Angela is in the flowery top on the right-hand side. Go and talk to her about what we're doing within Office and also within Windows around accessibility tools. And we'll see you back here at past. Thank you.
Testing. Yep. Testing, 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 testing. Yeah, that's about.
Test. Test, test. On.
I'm gonna get what? Try again.
On. Sounds good. That sounds good.
So,
It is.
yes.
Yeah, good. Ah. So this is a specialist keyboard, right?
Yes, I'm a stenographer and I write a language, keyboard language, real time.
And that's an international keyboard language or a British keyboard language?
It's an American one actually. There is one called Palantype, which is English, but the American one's a lot more like. Is the microphone actually turned on the thing?
Well, it is turned on.
Can you tell people?
Why don't you tell people to come and sit down?
Hi everyone, if you could make your way back to your chairs, please. We're going to start the presentations again. Thank you.
Do you know where Marshall is? Marshall, because I can't. This is not.
Yeah. Okay. Should be on now. Is it on? Yeah. Hi everyone. Sorry to interrupt the brilliant demos you've been seeing. I hope you've also enjoyed the great demo that is pizza. But we do have to continue. We've got a really packed agenda today. So without further ado, please do join us back in the main area. Take your seats, and we're about to hear from Professor Aldo Faisal. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, can do that. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. I wanted to talk to you a bit today about our work, how we use machine learning to help people. And I want to start with the fact that this is, of course, a teamwork and a team effort. And we've done a lot of this work together with Noyan Shongur and Mahendran Subramanian, who are somewhere here in the audiences. So give them a shout when you go for the drinks. So in my lab, we're very much interested in machine learning, and we're interested in human learning. And that journey began a couple of years ago with the challenge, how can we help people who cannot move anymore, who have a motor disability or a missing limb, to move again? And typically the answer to that, okay, you deploy some form of fancy technology, implants in the body, implants in the chip that can sort of access parts of your brain and so communicate again with other parts of the body. But my apologies. That should have been fully muted. Can we mute this explicitly, my video in? Marshall? Can you mute the video in? Okay, I'll wait for his thumbs. Otherwise, you're going to be drowned out. Good. First round in Olympics, the so-called triathlon, and it was held in Zurich. Invited teams from 5 countries to participate. I led the team from London. And what you see here is the so-called exoskeleton. These are people with paralyzed lower half of their body, and they're wearing robotic exoskeletons that allow them to walk. You also see that all of them use some form of arm support. You're seeing that this gentleman is going what you don't see is that they're together. That's because they're computer crash. There's some basic UI problems, operating system problems, guys. So while we have this fascinating thing that we can see here, restore walking or paralyzed, a lot of this driven by structural engineers who are interested in developing sort of technology solutions that restore the movement. There's a whole lot of the interface
and there's a green light you can stay here.
Some of them actually having a small laptop.
And you have to zigzag, then you have to climb and open the door. The guy in the front is in really from Germany. The second team is USA, then there's Korea, and all the way in the back.
But I want to show you also some other sobering aspects here. So this is the arm prosthetics race. So these are athletes who are missing an arm and are wearing some form of prosthesis. And so this is actually Kevin,
I lost my arm
on our team, and he had a very fancy prosthesis
in
where we were
1002 press overcharged itself, and a jet of oil with a brass slug at the head of it shot out, and that took the brass slug took the hand away, and then the hydraulic collar blew away the flesh. The hand is controlled by electro-impulses
and we lost to this gentleman
from the
here,
muscle. And by me manipulating those electro impulses
is about 450 years old, and
generating twitches on the muscle, then the hand picks up that information,
tons of AI
and
really smart
when I give it that instruction to go, depending on what level of impulse that I give it, I either rotate the wrist,
because ultimately
open
we're
the hand
faced
or close the
with
hand.
some very severe technological challenges. So many of these prosthetics, be it for the lower limb or upper limbs, are very expensive. We're talking 6 digits and above, and there's a very high cost of aftercare required for making this usable. The calibration, the setup takes hours often to be usable for end users. They're very slow decoding, so if you don't know what bits per second are, don't worry. It means that very few commands can be sent off across from what you want to do to what the system does. They typically have a very long delay, 1/10 of a second. So just imagine you're pressing the keyboard and then you have to wait for a bit before something appears. For many people, this is already annoying. For these end users, it's really a fundamental challenge. And just to be able to use of these technologies, they often spend weeks to months before they can do even a simple grasp on their prosthesis. And this leads to the fact that, for example, bionic arm prosthetics are abandoned. So within 6 months, roughly 75% of users who are prescribed and fitted one, potentially with invasive surgery to implant chips, abandon their prosthesis because it's simply not useful. And so the challenge is, how can we reverse these things? And one way to go is, let's think about better brain implants, better decoding, better solutions. Till you realize maybe there's a completely different way. And so this realization came for me about 9 years ago, when we realized that actually eye movements are pretty great signals about what people may want to do in the future. The other cool thing about eye movements, they're retained whether you're suffering from Parkinson's, MS, muscular dystrophy, spinal cord injury, stroke, if you're an amputee, or simply you're so old that you cannot move your body appropriately anymore. Muscular dystrophy is particularly interesting because it kills all your muscles except for an unknown reason, your eye muscles. So there are many, many movement disabilities that paralyze you and take away your ability to move that sort of spare the eyes. And eyes are special because if I ask you to look at this painting, for example, and ask you, well, what was going on before this man arrived? This is the movements of your eyes on this picture. If I ask you, how old are the people? This is how you look at the picture. And if I ask you, how wealthy is the family he's visiting? Well, this is the pattern of eye movements. And we've been knowing this for 50, 60 years. What we didn't know is, why don't we simply invert the problem? If I have the eye movement pattern, can I guess what you want to think about, what you're thinking when you're looking at this picture? Now that may sound scary and possibly impossible because you can think many different thoughts, but maybe we can use this idea, this technology, to decode what action intention you want to execute. And so around 9 years ago, we realized, okay, if we want to do that, we need eye trackers, things that measure our eye movements. And they're very expensive. At the time, they costed around 20,000 to 30,000 pounds just to have a nice pair, and so we set off and developed our own one. So this is made from mass market components that we souped up, went into the firmware, wrote some very fast assembler code, and we had a pair of eye trackers that was on par with 20,000 pound eye trackers in terms of performance measures, and it cost us $19.95 in terms of the component bill. We published this, we made this available to colleagues that were interested in, and nowadays you can buy eye trackers from the same companies for around £199. Okay? So that was the important impact that we had. And the realization that we had is once we have the signal of the eye movements, what can we do with that? And so the idea is standard, of course. If you look somewhere on the screen, you could, for example, make the mouse cursor move on that screen. Now, the problem that you face is what we call the Midas touch problem. Not everything that you're looking at you want to interact with. So how can you differentiate between these two? So one solution that was possible because we had two cameras observing two eyes is what we call wink to click, namely have a signal that is artificial, that does not naturally occur. Like blinking occurs naturally, but winking does not. That allowed us to do away with a lot of unnatural ways of interacting with eyes. So typical solutions that you may know about is dwell times, you just stare at stuff, or you blink a very long time. All of these things are counterintuitive, but you can wink to click. The other thing we can do is if we have two cameras, we can of course work out where the eyes look. And if you look at an object nearby, your eyes are focusing on that. So you get a three-dimensional cursor in space. And so we put this on always our cheap eye tracking system, hooked it to a robot, and basically asked this TV guy who just came in for the day, he had no time to practice, to move an object from one hand to the other by simply looking at it and then winking at the right moment. And this was his first attempt. It's a very intuitive technology. So that's fine. But what we really want to get us to is what we call the zero user interface, the user interface that doesn't exist, because we can already predict what you would like to naturally do before you have to start acting it out. That's what we would like to do. So the first test that we did, we took the famous game Pong. And Pong is simple because you just have to move the paddle up and down. And we simply looked at people playing Pong and guessed how their eye movements related to their paddle movements. We put this in a public exhibition. 2 booths of this completely autonomous system, 2,300 users show up, the system calibrates in 15 seconds, and then we're just playing. And we never give them any joystick or anything to do. We just ask them, imagine you were playing Pong, and the system was decoding their intention on the fly, and we have achieved, on average, in these 60 seconds, 8.6 returns. So 70% of people were simply able to use it on the first draw. We can take this further. We can, for example, use this for someone to decode their eye movements when they imagine they're painting. And so this motor imagery generates eye movements that we can decode, and we can use them to move a pen, but also, for example, to detach the pen when necessary from the board. And so now we're taking this forward in the project NHANDS, where we're hooking up paralyzed people, in this case, Duchenne muscular dystrophy boy, and hemiparetic stroke survivors that are paralyzed on one side, wearing a robotic exoskeleton and a robotic glove that allows them to open and close their hand, and we're doing this live decoding. So that's fine. I can show you some videos on that if you want, but that's only half of the story. So this is one of my students operating The first prototype, this video is about 1 year old. I cannot show you, unfortunately, currently the video because it's in review. But this is roughly the status. The system realizes you want to grasp something, moves the hand there, closes your fingers, and then basically waits for where you want to move that. And we're in a very low input regime now. So that's great. So now we have something that we could mount on a wheelchair to help people to move. But again here, we want to be able for you to navigate without having to interact with the user interface. So there are tons of solutions for controlling wheelchairs. Some of them, Sip and Puff, is a joystick that you have in your mouth, for example. That's a bit of a challenge because it prevents you from doing other things like communicating or eating. And you still have to look at some user interface instead of looking where you're going. What we want is free driving. So basically, we asked people to sit in a wheelchair and drive with the joystick while we were measuring their eye movements. And while we were measuring them, we were working out, okay, how do their eye movements tell us what joystick commands they were doing? And that allowed us to develop a first decoder that basically allowed this other student of mine to drive the wheelchair by eye. And so there's simply one of these very cheap eye tracking bars sitting there. All the metal framework is just to put other sensors on there. And he can basically have a normal conversation while steering the wheelchair because we're decoding where he wants to go. And this is not running on rails or pre-programmed anything. This is continuous control. And if you try it yourself, you're welcome to come and visit the lab. It's fairly low cognitive load. So now we wanted to take it to a next challenge because here still basically we need to decode, oh, I want to go roughly here, and then I want to go here, and then I want to go here. What I really want to be able to say, I want to go back there to Isabel, right? Because I'm looking at her, I want to see her, and then actually I can do other things, like talk to you or look at you while the wheelchair is driving me to her, right? So for that, we need something that we didn't have, and that's autonomy. We need to be able to have a system that can plan and navigate. Now, of course, self-driving cars, we hear mostly the bad news about them when somebody dies. What we needed is a system that works in a confined little kitchen, that works on the street, that works across a continuum of spaces. So we want you to be able to move within your house, within your bedroom, all the way to King's Cross Station, maybe take a train. So this was the developments of the past 2 years. We developed various forms of using very low-cost LiDARs and developed our own LiDARs. We then focused a lot on being able to decode meaningful interactions, for example, with this door. So here, basically, somebody has knocked at the door, and what you're seeing here is the eye movements of a user who has heard somebody has knocked at the door and is looking at the door, versus somebody who basically wants to open the door. This person is thinking, I want to open the door. And so you can see that the pattern is different. It's not just the location, it's also the spatial-temporal structure. And so if you think a bit about how you can build appropriate decoder, I'm sure you can also find a solution, and then basically map that to an action intention. This one here, okay, he's just looking at the door. This one here, there's an intended action, please take me there. And so this leads us to improvements where we take off-the-shelf self-driving car technology, as it's been already published, to allow people to map a space because we have a LiDAR system, and then we take this to our end users. Tom, who is quadriplegic after a snowboarding accident. Tom is a software developer, by the way, and he uses gaze and speech control, and you can see him here basically using the gaze control. And all of this little tedious navigation to get him from A to B is not done by him. It's done by the wheelchair that's taking him to the target where he wants to go, which is by the fireplace. So at the moment, we're working on taking this technology to a level where you can really move across the whole spectrum from inside a confined space to some form of public space. Why I think this is interesting is because when I started, we set out as neural engineers, people who want to do brain-machine interfacing. And now we're finding us in a situation where we're actually people who work on assistive technology. And it's very interesting to go to the conferences where people talk about the latest chip brain implant, And you sit there and say, hey, I have this eye tracker, 19 pounds, you know, with some great software, and we can do these things that you can't do because your chip is not working good enough. And just to show you a bit how this works, I want to show you here 2 factors. So this is the base cost of the technology. So if you need to have, for example, brain surgery and a chip implanted, the costs are around $100,000. And here we're plotting the information throughput. How many bits per second, how many yes-no decisions we can extract from eye movements versus current technology that uses brain implants, that uses EEG, speech recognition, SIP and PUF. And if you basically count how fast can I read out intentions from people, our technology sits around at 50 to 60 bits per second. That's a very large number. You can't type as fast as we can read out information. And that compares for a cost price of under $100. So we think this is a really meaningful technology. But it also means for us that basically our friends who work on neural technology are not talking to us anymore. And we're looking for new friends who are talking more about assistive technologies because that's where we're ending up. And so that's where I'm finishing my talk, really. This is a whole team effort. There are many people involved, highlighting Noyan and Mahendran, who worked on the autonomy part of the system. And I've got a bit of time, and we thought, why not take some questions? And we'll have microphones as well, and there's a question back there.
Thank you for the lovely talk and great ideas. How exhaustive is it? Like, is it something a person can do for more than a couple minutes, like direct a machine with his eyes, because it sounds, or her eyes? Like.
Yes, because you actually don't care about the machine. A bit like you don't care about where your feet are going. They're just moving the way where you want to go, and you don't have to think about them. And so basically, you know, if I want to go there, the system will work out I want to go there, and it will start taking you there. Now, the main challenges are now, how can you get fast enough video processing for the wheelchair to go without packing, you know, 2 GPUs on a workstation, draining the wheelchair battery. That's the bigger challenge. But the cognitive load is very low. A, because you don't have to constantly control stuff, and B, because even when you control it, it's more a decoding of a one-off intention.
So when do you think this will go to market? I've got a loud voice, it's all right. Yeah. Sorry, when do you think this will go to market?
So that's a very good question. So we are now in the process of setting up a company to market the wheelchair aspect, because the way we've designed the wheelchair is it's a plug-in that plugs into any joystick-controlled wheelchair. The other technology, we can have a separate chat about that.
Sorry, just one more question. So how many people in this country would this impact?
So that's a very good point. So, you know, severe disability paralysis affects around 1% to 2%. That number is going to go up as we get older. Now comes the question, at what point does it affect you so that your life is completely transformed, right? So in terms of number of quadriplegics, the numbers are fairly low, but the lifetime costs of care for them are very high. At the moment, the NHS gives you 2 full-time carers if you're quadriplegic for the rest of your life, and you may be 19 in a snowboard accident. So you need to look at the long-term cost effect as well. Now, many people may benefit from gaze-controlled wheelchairs who are paralyzed and want to do other things than fiddle around with joysticks, right? Similarly, stroke survivors still have some use, but they may want to have some form of automation of motor control. Yeah.
Have you looked at combining the different modalities of input, because they have different affordances? So using, you know, eye gaze plus poor control of the arm or speech or brain interface, the combination.
Sure. We've published some of them. So we've compared voice input in terms of Quest type, user satisfaction, confidence, and control. And I think voice is the problem that you have to speak while you may be speaking about other things, and you cannot eat and drive and other factors such as that. And basically, in terms of the output, eye movements were highest rated together with the joystick. direct joystick control if you want to use a joystick. Now, combining them is also interesting, but remember, for a lot of these technologies, you need to actually calibrate them. So an EEG cab sounds always fantastic, takes about 20, 30 minutes to set up, and the decoding rate is 70%, 60% if you're lucky. Yeah, just remember how happy you are when your speech-to-text decoder makes one error every 1,000 times, every 1,000 characters, or every 100 words, and we are here at, every second, third word is wrong, right? Not gonna fly. Other questions?
Yeah, so I was wondering about the tracking of the eye gaze. Do you use do you use a machine learning algorithm for that? And if you do, how do you get the data set, like the features and the target?
Very good. We collect the data ourselves. So, so it depends on the application. So we have done one project where we basically fully sensorized people. We measured all their eye movements, everything they saw, everything they hear, the movements of every finger, the movements of the full body, shoved them into Studio Flat and asked them to live there for a couple of days. So that's several terabytes of data that we have of healthy people. Now, with have a certain movement pattern that is identifiable as healthy. Now, once you have some form of disability, these patterns change. And so for the wheelchair, we've developed the initial decoders by basically sitting people in front of an Unreal gaming engine, giving them a joystick and driving while we were eye tracking them while they were sitting at a computer to personalize the decoder. And now we're at a stage where we just decode while you're driving instantaneously.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. So hands up, please. Yes.
So the low-cost eye tracking is being driven by the gaming industry, as in, that's how they're able to get the cost down. So now if a gamer is gaming on Twitch, you can turn on eye tracking mode so you can see what the gamer is looking at, so that you don't have to you don't have to make them dictate or tell you what they're thinking. The eyes kind of give that away. Are you thinking about working with the gaming companies who are, in terms of collecting that data there? Because surely that's going to give us an enormous amount.
So, sure, but the challenge is we're looking at natural eye movement data while you're performing the task naturally, right? So I want to know how you would look at something if you want to grab that pizza. So you need to grab that pizza. Playing StarCraft may not be the best decoding of intention. Absolutely, that are more related to that, yeah. So before I finish, I need to plug something. So the government gave us money, a lot of it, 20 million, to set up a center for doctoral training in artificial intelligence for healthcare. And one of the key areas that we have is what we call productivity in care. So making life easier for people, assistive technology fits fully into this topic. I'm running the whole thing, so you can imagine that I'm keen on looking at these things. So if you're interested or know people who want to do a PhD and work from day one with a patient and users, have a clinician or a physiotherapist as part of your supervisor team and some top crack AI people, then give us a shout. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Aldo. Next up, we have Saqib Sheikh. So round of applause for Saqib, please.
Was more technical than expected. No? Yeah? Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
Decide on how you want to run it.
I will just shout on a slide changed,
And then I can jump on if you want.
and then I'll tell you at some point, depending on the time. Yeah.
Technical difficulties. We're looking for one of the millions of adapters that you need with laptops and phones nowadays. Mini display to... I'll go check on my computer. That's very mini display. That's too small.
Okay, very few slides, but Yes, please. There's only 7, right? Okay. Is mine? Okay. Very good. Hello. So I'm Saqib Sheikh. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft in the Cognition group. And I lead a team working on looking at how we can use artificial intelligence to empower people like myself with visual impairments. And I'm going to be talking to you about Seeing AI, the product we created, but I'm also going to be talking about the journey that took me there. Okay. And let's start with this statement, that technology can be the great equalizer. And really, that's the story of my life. Because I lost my sight when I was a kid. And then I had some extra time in school while I was learning to, adjust and cope and all this. And someone taught me how to use a typewriter, which, by the way, was invented to help someone who's blind. So the technology equalizer typewriter, not quite going together. Excuse me, got a bit of a cold. But for me, that was a magical experience because being able to type meant that I could write something that someone else could read. So this mechanical, old-fashioned, even for that day and time, I'm not that old, but typewriters are old-fashioned, but it let me be on a level playing field to write something that everyone else could read. And then I went to school, and I found, wow, there's assistive technologies for everything, whether that was producing Braille, producing raised diagrams, for creating, even then, 3D maps of the world. And I was just surrounded by this idea that technology could actually enable people to do things that you otherwise couldn't. And we've seen so many amazing examples of that today. And I love this quote from Helen Keller, saying that while there's a lot of suffering in this world, there's a lot of overcoming of it too. And this idea shaped my life. I guess I'd say that Helen Keller was like what we call a hacker, because, yeah, there are problems. And it turns out that people with disabilities often have those greatest needs. But then I went on to be a technologist, because you know what? You have the magic, the power to make the solutions too. And when someone with that incredible need comes together with the people who can use technology to create the solutions, then as we've seen today, magic happens. And that's something that guided me in my career. Been at Microsoft 13 years now, working on a bunch of different projects, not related to assistive technology. But then, a few years ago, I had this incredible opportunity at one of the company-wide hackathons where tens of thousands of people come together to hack. And I thought, okay, when I was at university, AI was just this funny thing that you sort of studied, and there weren't really any jobs to do it. It was when neural networks were around the first time around. And I thought, kid in a candy store. I'm at Microsoft. What if I went around and collected all the AI I could find, and what could we do with it? And as someone who's blind, I really wanted something that could tell me what's going on around me. I wanted something that, like when I'm walking down the street with a friend, chit-chatting, and they know what's of interest to me. They know that, this store's just opened up, or that shut down, or there's a weird guy over there. So I wanted a little friend on my shoulder which told me what was going on. And as I started talking about this idea around Microsoft, people were like, yeah, I wish I could have that too. I wish when I was abroad I could understand the language, someone whispering in my ear, different language. A friend who was hard of hearing, like, yeah, I wish I had a heads-up display which could interpret to me or give me a sign language avatar. And everyone had their own little spin on the little friend on the shoulder idea. This idea that if artificial intelligence can understand the world around you, which by the way it can, and it will even more so, then that friend on your shoulder can intermediate the world for you. And it can fill in the gaps between what you possibly could do and what you're able to do, because it's not you that's disabled. It's just the environment and the people around you who aren't allowing you to do the things you could. So from there, the hackathon team carried on. We made Seeing AI. But actually, sorry, one more thing before that. Let's go to the technology slide before we talk about Seeing AI and say that we discussed this idea that when someone with a great need comes together with someone who can solve, you come up with so many different possibilities. And these are just some of the commonplace technologies which came out of that pattern. It could be Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone, inspired by his mother, who was hard of hearing, and his dad, who was then an elocution teacher. It could be the guy who had RSI and couldn't type, and eventually he started looking at low-impact ways of typing and then ended up starting, this decades go by, and he started a company which works on touchscreen technology, which turns out Apple acquires and goes into the iPhone to be the touchscreen we use. Well, that's the touchscreen, but what about the keyboard, the touch keyboard? Again, people with disabilities were using touch keyboards years and years before that. I mentioned the keyboard, the speech recognition, the very first reading machine for the blind. Ray Kurzweil, very famous scientist now. At the beginning of his career, he sat on a plane and asked a blind guy next to him, if I could invent anything for you, what would it be? And he said, I wish I could read. So Ray Kurzweil comes up with this reading machine, the size of a washing machine, tens of thousands of dollars, but it can actually scan a book. Flatbed scanners, OCR, speech recognition. Inventions which became commonplace. Excuse me. But yeah, so disability is a driver for innovation. I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but you know, if you can put all your AI skills to use on these problems, it actually, over time, can change the world. We can bring it to everyone, and these are mainstream technologies. So let's have a quick look at Seeing AI, and then I'll tell you a bit more about that story. So I've got a little video describing what the app does.
Seeing AI is a Microsoft research project for people with visual impairments. The app narrates the world around you by turning the visual world into an audible experience. Point your phone's camera, select a channel, and hear a description. The app recognizes saved friends. Jenny near top right, 3 feet away. Describes the people around you, including their emotions. 28-year-old female wearing glasses looking happy. It reads text out loud as it comes into view, like on an envelope. Kim Lawrence, P.O. Box. Or a room entrance. Conference 2005. Or scan and read documents like books and letters. The app will guide you and recognize the text with its formatting. Top and left edge is not visible. Hold steady. Lease agreement. This agreement when paying with cash, the app identifies currency bills. $20 US. When looking for something in your pantry or at the store, use the barcode scanner with audio cues to help you find what you want. Campbell's tomato soup. When available, hear additional product details. Heated microwave bowl on height. And even hear descriptions of images in other apps like Twitter by importing them into Seeing AI. A close-up of Bill Gates. Finally, explore our experimental features like scene descriptions to get a glimpse of the future. I think it's a young girl throwing a frisbee in the park. Experience the world around you with the Seeing AI app from Microsoft.
So that's what we built. It's an iOS app available for free to download. And we chose iOS because amongst the visually impaired people, that's the most popular platform to get this technology out there. But going back to those early days developing this app, I did feel like a kid in a candy store. But we just went through what are all the awkward parts of life. How can we bring technology to bear on this? Wow, really loud. How do we bring technology to bear on this problem? So it turns out that we all have supercomputers in our pockets these days. Wow, onboard, on-device face recognition, processing video frames in real time. Tick, we can do that. So I can hold on my phone and teach it to recognize my friends and just wave it around, and it'll, within how many milliseconds? You know, like 100, 200 milliseconds, describe who it's seeing. OCR, we can, you know, that big device Ray Kurzweil had, washing machine sized, we can now run that on your mobile phone in 100 milliseconds or so. So what's this doing is it allows me as a blind person in different chores, different tasks of my life to be able to read text, recognize people, and much more. So we trained a neural network to recognize currency. So in the US especially, the dollar bills are all the same size and all the same color. And so people fold them in different shapes and put them in different pockets. And famously, there was a musician who used to get paid millions in $1 bills, apparently. I'm not sure it was millions, but he always got paid in $1 bills so that he could count what it was. So now we can train a neural network running on device, again in real time, to be able to recognize those notes. So this is the power of machine learning, really impacting people in their daily lives. And I can keep going on with it. We've just sort of taken one by one by one, and we'll show you a few of these in just a moment, and you saw some in the video. Recognizing products, Coke versus Diet Coke. We thought, easy enough, you can scan a barcode. That's simple technology. But then if you're blind, how do you know where the barcode is? And so we trained a neural network to help you find out where that barcode is and guide you with audio cues. And then we hear fun stories from our users. I mentioned the real-time face recognition. There's a teacher in the Midlands who has Seeing AI running on a phone pointed at the classroom door, and it's telling him which student arrives. And then, of course, someone's late. He also knows that too. And then there was this guy who decided to watch a subtitled movie, so a movie that was in French, but with English subtitles. And then he just mounts the real-time OCR on his phone in front of the laptop, and it's reading him the subtitles along with the French dialogue. And we never planned to do that, but I thought it was very cool. So, and the other unexpected use, before we had currency recognition, we had a group of users in the US who would actually use the face recognition, which came first, to recognize all the president's faces. And then this would be like Mr. $10, and this would be Mr. $20. So I think that's fun. So we have an iOS app, and we're keeping going. And I think Hector's, if you could come up and show our latest feature. Haven't got time to show everything, but we keep going. We talk to our users. We figure out what are the things that people, not only with low vision or blindness, but also learning differences, how can we bring machine learning, artificial intelligence to bear on their daily lives? And we keep on building new features. And this is one that we just released last week, or was it the week before, which lets you explore a photo by touch. So a photo, say, an old memory from your photo gallery, but if you run your finger over a glass touchscreen, it'll use audio cues and haptics to let you identify.
A person standing in front of a laptop. Hackney, GB, 1830.
Okay, so that's just a general description. But now, if we
Processing. 5 items detected. Move your finger over the screen to explore. Person. Laptop. Person. Sign. Person. Luggage and bags. A close-up of a sign. Contains text. 2005. Processing. 6 items detected. Move your finger over the screen to explore. Do not take risks. Reason until do not return to the building for any reason until authorized to do so. Do not use lifts.
Okay, so Mark in the audience here. We were in California a couple of weeks ago, and he'd rented this crazy big. That's cool. He rented a pickup truck.
One face. A screenshot of a man. Contain processing.
We all got in the back of the truck, and he took a really cool photo of that. And I was exploring it, And
13 items detected. Move your finger over the screen to explore.
I'm going to keep talking. Let's go with it. So yeah, there's this pickup truck, and I'm standing in the back. And I was exploring that photo because the description was just like a man standing in front of a vehicle or something a bit lame, because the artificial intelligence to create alt text is getting there, but not where it could be. But if I put my finger over it, suddenly it's saying truck, and then it says the truck has the words 4x4, 4x4 on it, and then there's me, and then it says, hey, there's being a bit flattering 32-year-old guy standing here, and I could see how high I was, and that I was actually above the car, and I could see where the wheels were, and it's kind of this whole, and you get haptics as well when you run your finger over this. And then there were some palm trees, and then it said, palm tree contains text Hilton. So, you can see that even you've got a sign through the palm trees. And that was just a random photo I got on WhatsApp just before this talk. And it's actually an example I'm going to use now because it worked so well. So this is one of the latest features. And we're going to keep adding more. We have lots of cool ideas of how do you bring the latest AI and machine learning to help people. Do you have any other cool examples? Okay, yes. Other examples from other colleagues.
We have so many pupils who are non-verbal, but still have so much to say.
I want the...
Oh, no? Okay. Story of my life. So when you have this video, so basically that's Seeing AI. You should download it if you haven't already. And I want to show you a little video of all the other AI for accessibility projects at Microsoft and with some of our partners, because there's so much cool work. We've already seen some incredible examples today, which I'm so excited about. And you saw 3 of the cohort. There's another 8 who are doing equally cool work. I had the pleasure of meeting them all a few weeks ago. And hopefully we'll get to see a video showing just a few more examples if everything works. Yeah. Yeah.
Microphone here. Could you please make sure you do have the microphone, otherwise people on the live stream can't hear. Also, while we're transcribing, it really helps out.
Firstly, thank you for the presentation. It was very enlightening. I want to say, Seeing AI has been fantastic. I work for a charity that works with blind people, and whenever I show them the app, they're totally amazed by what things you can do, such as recognizing the currency, that kind of thing. So I want to give you guys praise, and what you guys have done is fantastic. Another question, I got a question in terms of development. Are you guys planning to do anything with Android, or is it just only based on kind of the Apple kind of environment?
We started with Apple because that's where most of our users were initially, but that's one of our top feature requests, so definitely going to look at that when we can.
Are we fixed on the video, or do we want to do a few more questions? Because we can keep questions as well for the end of Saqib's presentation.
Either way.
Holly, are we good?
We have so many pupils who are non-verbal, but still have so much to say.
I want the exact same information that my hearing friends have. There are barriers to communication everywhere, but I think it's time we look at the barriers as opportunities to reach out to everyone.
Soundscape fills in a lot of the mental map as you move. Approaching intersection. You can just put it in your pocket and go.
With ALS, you become locked in. But we see technology as a way to give back what ALS has taken away.
There's no better feeling than to hear a child say something that they've wanted to say and the look on their face after they've been able to say it.
When it's reading, I see spaces between the words and it's easy to focus on.
Ajay realized that here was something that could change his life.
Now that I have my phone, I can see exactly what was said. and that's been a huge help to me.
The system is learning as it goes, and the accuracy has improved tremendously.
Students can pick any language that they choose to receive the information. It's like we jumped into the future.
Because communication is very important for all of us, and we just want to be together and not feel left out.
Aider les personnes avec autisme à communiquer, il y a des images.
Je parle, je donne une information à Arthur et elle est traduite par l'application El Picto instantanément en pictogramme et après d'une façon orale.
Va t'habiller et te brosser les dents.
On va pouvoir remettre en place une communication qui est plus spontanée. Je crois que ça aide à recréer du lien.
Both my wife and I are totally blind, and we have a 3-year-old son that's in preschool. He can see, but his parents can't. So to be able to know what's going on at his school is everything. The Seeing AI app has the ability to allow me access to the visual world. Artificial intelligence is beginning to have an impact on the lives of people with disabilities, but it's only going to grow. There is still so much out there to be done.
I love all the work in this space. And so just in closing, I'd say that if you're in this space, in the AI machine learning space, then there's so many opportunities. We're hiring, by the way. But beyond that, there's so many API. As we work with Seeing AI, we work with the teams around Microsoft to make sure innovations get back into these platforms, into Azure, into cognitive services. So you can go and get the speech recognition API, the translator API, our computer vision API, and start building some of these things for yourself. So find someone with a need. Be the person with the ability to create. And I think when you come together, then I just want to see more and more of these solutions out there, helping more and more people. So let's do this together. Thank you.
Brilliant. So we have 5 minutes for questions. I realize I took your question, did not give you a chance for that to be answered. I don't know if Saqib, you can remember it, but I'll pass the mic back just so that can be repeated.
No, I think he answered it.
So we answered the Android question, yes.
My mistake. Hands up, please. Questions? Yeah. We should have left the mic with you.
Yeah. Do you have, I think what would be cool is if you made it into like a glasses form. What do you think about that?
I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah. Instead of using the phone, you could just use it with glasses and then you can look around and it will tell you exactly what's around.
Yeah, we have a bunch of prototypes like that in the lab, and we actually did a really cool video a while back with that. So I think as the technology gets to where we want it to be, that will definitely be a possibility.
Brilliant. Any more questions? Hands up, please. Okay, well, huge thank you to Saqib. Next up, we have Matthew Johnson from ThoughtWorks. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Can I just check which number your mic is?
Okay. All good? Great. Okay. Quick question for you. So we've got auto captioning there. Hand up who you think it's auto captioning. And it's probably already told. Hand up who you think it's human captioning. Okay. So it's human captioning. Too tight. I'll go through that a bit later. So thank you all for that. Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I want to talk about my disability, sort of very briefly. So provided deaf, okay, if you're happy there, okay. Provided deaf did birth, I've worn hearing aid until I got a cochlear implant. A cochlear implant is sort of like a wire that goes into the cochlea. It's much better technology, and I can hear a lot more, and it gives me more confidence. And I lip read, but I also litter a little bit, but lip read between 65, 35%. Okay, so I'm a technologist. I've been in technology for 30 years. I'm revealing my age there. And I have a passion about technology. I would develop a coder for about 18 years until the stenographer came out about 12 years ago, which means I could participate in meaty conference call, and therefore I moved away from coding and got into delivery. I love that quote by Rachel Chenton. There's a film, a short film called The Silent Child. It won an Oscar for the short film. So silent, definitely silent disability. Can't hear, and it's not like listening. Just to give you a bit of a fact and figures, I'm not alone. 11 million people with hearing impairment in UK alone. In 2035, there'll be about 16 million, 1 in 5. 5% of the world population have hearing impairment. That's almost 500 million. And by 2050, almost 900 million. It's a lot. Big disability. So, I don't know everything about accessibility. It's an enormous range of disability, but I can concentrate about my disability. And my disability, communication is key. Hearing loss affects communication. Children learn how to communicate from the moment they are born. They listen very soon and are able to recognize their mother and father voices. Children begin talking by imitating the sound they hear. Deaf children cannot. They're already behind. The biggest obstacle that I and any deaf person face is communication. And I want to concentrate on around communication. So, lots of technology for communication. Social media, email, WhatsApp, Twitter, so on. Auto captioning, fantastic piece of technology. Sign language recognition, lip reading recognition. Story sign is where an app can read a book and translate in sign language. And of course, smart speakers, like Alexa, Google Home, and so on. I will go through one each of the technology. Auto captioning. Lots of bits of technology applying, including Microsoft trying to out there, also Google. There's a lot about there. And they auto integrate with Microsoft 365, if you've seen it. Very, very good. And it also translates into different language on the fly and transcript the producing. Great technology. I want to get, this is the video. I want to see if I can, can I do this? Will it work? Oh, it didn't work. It didn't matter, we could go back. Can I go back? How can I go back? Oh, there, oh. Can we work?
Hello. My name is Thomas. And this is Naveed. We are inventors in the Lemelson MIT Student Prize Competition.
Brilliant. How do I go back? Now you come back. Yeah, that one. Great. Cool. Thank you. Okay, so great talk. And the other one is lip reading recognition. DeepMind produced that one. It's really impressive. It can lip read better than I can. And it's about 50% accurate. And then the one I was talking about called, developed a company called Huawei. Can you type that order? Huawei? Oh. Okay, never mind. Good try. You're not perfect. And again, it's about reading a story for children who know sign language. And what he does, he translates the word into sign language so that the children can understand. It's really good. Okay, and everybody knows the smart speakers. I'm sure everybody knows in this room about the smart speakers. So last year, about a year ago, I went to a conference by this blind chap, giving a demo how the smart speaker could do. Alexa, what's the weather forecast for tomorrow? Alexa, turn the thermostat down, please. Alexa, turn the lights on. Fantastic picture technology. And it's not just for blind people, but with lots of people with different disability. For example, people can't get out of their chair, arthritis, and so on. So technology takes people with disability, more positive lifestyle, increases social participation, self-control, reduce digital cost, remove burden on people by eliminating obstacles. And if you focus on people with disability, it will return path the rest, rewarding a win for all. Is technology ready? Is it inclusive? Some of them, not all. AI is very good, really good, but are we there yet? Are we a finished product? No, we're not. I don't know what happened to that big circle there. So 20% of the population had a speech impairment, stroke, SAMA, autism, deafness. So those with speech impairment, it means these cannot use this smart speaker. I can't use it myself. It doesn't understand me well enough. There's a company called Voice8, which focuses on people with brain injury. They concentrate on the different wavelengths. So our speech has different wavelengths, but people with severe brain injury had a smaller, different wavelength. So that company focused on that wavelength. Also, they have much less vocabulary. So the AI had a smaller vocabulary to focus on, so it works faster, and it's much more effective. And I know that Microsoft, Amazon are working with that company to make it the product more inclusive, which is great. You saw that video of that hand and sign. It's great. But sign language involves expression. It's very important. So one example is, say, there's a sign language for good night. But the robot would be like this. It's not. It's good night. You close your eyes, you give an expression. It doesn't do that. The DeepMind lip reading is great, but it's only 50% accurate. It's a long way to go. And auto captioning, great piece of technology, but it's only up to 85% accurate. Stenography come up to 90, 98, 99% accurate. It's a huge difference. It's a huge difference. It's very important. The captioning is not about repeating word by word. It also includes the proper grammar, punctuation, speaker identification. You would also have to deal with a different accent, like myself, people from a foreign accent, background noise, and poor audio, so on. So, if you can imagine my situation when you have a bad caption, it's like me writing a book. It's not finished, the first draft. It got lots of spelling mistake, lots of grammar mistake. Here you are, read it, and you will find it frustrating. It's the same thing. The speech technology is not a bad idea. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not perfect. There's room for improvement. It's a great technology for the right way. I would use it with my family and my friend. And also, at work, I'll probably be able to use with a group of people that I work with on a daily basis. I might be able to say, could you slow down, please? Speak more clearly. But in a formal event like this, or a public event, I can't put my hand out and say, could you slow down, please? Could you speak more clearly? I can't do that. So there's one thing you could do. And what I'm trying to say is the technology out there is fantastic. It's so exciting. But we have to be careful that we don't get carried away before the public is ready. We've got to gain their trust first. So if we say auto-captioning, for example, it's there, it's ready, and people find, oh, it's not that accurate. Well, it is accurate, but it's not 100% accurate. We have to be very careful. Technology had improved the life of disabled people. I believe technology should be new to assist, to work with the existing surgery we have, not substitute. So, for example, in keyhole surgery, we don't get rid of a surgeon. They change their role, and they're becoming more specialised. We never get rid of them. So, I have already told Hector about this. Auto-captioning had to play a part, but also human captioning had to play a part. I personally believe they should work close together to provide a much superior, better service. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Again, we have the opportunity for questions. So hands up, please. I will run to you with the mic. Please wait until you got the mic before asking. So hands up, any questions? Yes.
Oh dear. Should let you know that I've been talking to Hector for 2 hours this afternoon.
we were properly... Okay, so you sure? Okay. So it's more of a comment, Matthew. I actually think what you're saying about the kind of the relationship between the human and AI we could have that conversation in almost any industry. You know, this is not about replacing the human doing that job. It's about what does the AI pick up that, you know, to add to that experience. So the example that we gave earlier about things like the auto alt text in documents, that's a perfect example where something's not being done by the majority of people yet, and AI will play a role to kind of add to that experience. Captioning, informal captioning in conversation is something that just that story needs to be told as much as the amazing Orla and the amazing human captioner. And just to make it clear so people understand what our policy is on this, when we are running events above a certain size, we make sure we get a human captioner in. Yeah? But we're increasingly seeing some people will say in a small informal event, we can turn the captions on in PowerPoint, and I think that's the perfect, that's the perfect mix of the two. The appropriate use of the technology in the appropriate setting. So I think we're in complete agreement on that.
Yes, I agree with that, Hector. Yes, you can hear me. But again, I'm going to bring it up, Hector. My concern is that deaf children, they're really already start behind, and my worry is that we give them more to the teachers, say, hey, teacher, we've got auto-captioning. Here you are, the deaf children can keep up with that. And because it's only 85% accurate, they do miss out the grammar. And in fact, the majority of the deaf people, English not good. I mean, I've got quite good academic record. I've got 10 O-level, again, I'm showing you my age again, 3 A-level, 1 degree, but I don't have English O-level because my English wasn't good. I like to think it improved since then, but that's very typical of deaf people. And my concern that if we tell the teacher, oh, here we are, we've got auto-captioning, here we are, provide the subtitle. But we need to be careful that we don't substitute that for their quality of teaching, making sure that the deaf don't miss out that extra 50%.
Hi, Matthew, is it? Yeah, hi. I'm a lecturer, and I just wanted to share an experience with you. Less than a year and a half ago, I have a student in my class who has a hearing impairment. And what I did is I introduced Microsoft Teams inside my class. And that was the first time he ever actually communicated with his classmates and the other way around. And as soon as I introduced that piece of technology, the boy has never stopped communicating with me. And every day he's on Teams asking me all sorts of questions. So just really simple introductions of, something like Microsoft Teams can actually have such a huge impact on people's lives. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But remember, I knew the stenographer for the last 12 years. So if I knew the Microsoft technology personally, it's sort of a degradation because I know the quality. But you're absolutely right. For people who never knew captioning at all, fantastic, very good. I agree.
Okay, hands up again. Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for that talk. Is there anything that ThoughtWorks is specifically doing that you're allowed to talk about, which would be related to this space?
We are a consultancy company, so we are completely agnostic. That's why I'm able to say anything I like with the reason, I think. We give a client advice what we think is the best technology with the reason. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Further on from what the gentleman was saying in regards to education, how do you feel in the education system? How do you feel like there's enough education in terms of accessibility, in terms of the teachers knowing how to deal with deaf and blind children? Do you feel that it's along with the technology? Do you feel that the education system is up to date as well, or do you think there's further improvement that needs to go along with the technology?
There's always a lack of teachers specially trained for the deaf. So to have the captioning, it's a great, it's great news. Like I said, it's really good to help you out. It should replace the teachers. We need to have them working together. It's important. But again, I think Hester mentioned it, that some parts of the country have no asset. There's no teacher trained for the deaf. They're able to have something in order to capture, like the person in the lecture. It's great. It's great. But I'm always trying to strive for improvement. I'm trying to tell everybody that AI is great. We're not there yet. We're on a long way journey.
So I've got a question. Technology will never replace humans. I totally agree with that. How can we, as an industry, organisations, overcome within the deaf community that fear factor that interpreters will be replaced by technology?
That's a great question. I can't answer that one, actually. I'll be honest, I'm not a complete advocate in the deaf community. I'm a part of it. Can they replace it by technology? I don't think so. I really don't. Like I said to you earlier about that sign language, you need that expression, you need that human touch. You still need that. Hector might want to say something.
You carry on. I agree. My first language is British Sign Language, so I communicate all the time with that at home. For me, it's using technology at the right time. So I've heard you say you don't have technology, or teachers don't have the skills to have British Sign Language. So there is a time and a place for technology to replace an interpreter, but I don't feel it replaces it all of the time. And I feel there is this journey that everybody needs to be taken on that actually builds the confidence in using the technology, but recognising that human is the most important touch.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Because there's such a shortage of human stenotype, panotype, what's happened is you've got the whole CART revoicing community have come in who can't do verbatim, so they paraphrase. And I worked 20 years ago looking at how, for the last 20 years, looking at how you could combine speech recognition doing verbatim with editing live speech recognition. And the argument has often come back from people at NTID and wherever, oh, it's too complicated. The subtitlers on television say it's too many words per minute. You have to shorten it. What's your view about verbatim captioning and paraphrased captioning?
Okay, you mean shortening? Okay, I'm not a big fan of that, I'll be honest with you. So for example, if I would like to go to a comedy show, which I can't right at the moment, and I watch Michael McIntyre, okay? Every word means something. And if you were trying to shorten that, it's not going to work for me, is it? And why should I be disadvantaged by hearing a shorter phase than someone else. I mean, last week, there was a speaker would usually foul language all the time, and the stenographer was too embarrassed to type them, so did not type the foul language. But everybody heard it. Everybody saw it. I didn't. Why? Why should we be different? We should be treated equally. I think Hester wanted to say again.
So I think it comes full circle to representation of disability in the tech industry. So, we will only get the products that truly reflect the needs of people with disabilities if, like Saqib here, is in the, in leading roles driving the future of technology. So this is why we need more people with disabilities getting trained with the skills to come and work in the tech industry to say, stop doing this for me. I mean, the sign gloves thing is a classic example where you kind of wonder whether they spoke to anybody who was deaf. There is it's a little bit ridiculous, some of it. Somebody's done something very clever, but somebody's gone, why didn't you look at facial recognition? It just doesn't work. Yeah. Now, you would have found that out in 5 minutes if there had been a ton of deaf people on the project. Now, so interestingly, when we talk about things like the Department for Education or we talk about government, I sit in meetings in the House of Lords all the time and they say, what are we going to do about special education? I'll be like, we could start by having some disabled teachers. Yeah? Until we've got the representation of people at high level in the industries where disability is, people with disabilities are participating, it's going to be other people doing stuff for people with disabilities. So that's my general comment in terms of like, how do we make sure that it's done the right way?
Yes, absolutely. Like again, I gave my last final word. We need to work together rather than think of all that.
Okay, brilliant. Any last questions? All right, so we are running with just about 10, 12 minutes left. We have the opportunity now for the bonus round, my content where I did not think we had enough time. So, I mean, feel free. I know it's getting late in the day. I will not take offense if you want to kind of catch your last train home. But Holly, if you don't mind finding these slides on the laptop, I've written a little bit of content which is relating to the common good, how that's kind of relating to AI, and also how we can see the importance of that in accessibility. Yeah, scroll down to the bottom. There is a video in there. I don't know if it's going to be. Okay. Right, so in 10 minutes or less, AI for the common good. So I work for Sopra Steria, I'll be very quick. They do support in these types of projects, these agendas, where for one thing, they have been very generous in supporting my time and supporting running these events. We also have a digital ethics consulting offer, which is where we're trying to make sure the type of things we create have all of these things considered right at the start, not at the end where we're thinking, how do we correct this? Something quite intrinsic to the work that we do. Oh. So, the common good. And what does it mean? So, this is something which I've heard referenced increasingly in reference particularly to artificial intelligence. There's the EU high-level expert group on AI who released their draft ethics guidelines. It may have even come out with the full one. It's supposed to be March. I've not been particularly keeping up to date over the last day or two where I've been busy, but we're expecting a full ethics guideline from the European Union. And this mentioned the common good 8 times without really telling us what does that mean in the context of AI, what does it mean generally, what should we take from it. And we're here today with Microsoft. This is a photo of Microsoft's president, Brad Smith, alongside the Pope. The pretense of their conversation there was AI and the common good. How do these two things overlap and how should we understand it? So the description I'm going to give you is very heavily based on Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He's a philosopher around the, I may be getting this horribly wrong, but around the 18th century. And he's not the first to come up with the common good, but he was one who really developed this concept. And we're going to go through 3 different stages here of wills, which will kind of describe how he gets to that. So the first is the particular will. So a particular will is something which you as an individual may follow, kind of a particular motive or drive that you have, something that's going to be good for yourself. But it can also be something shared amongst a group of people. So we might think of a particular will as something like a group of wealthy people who want the higher tax bracket rate to be cut. And that's something which could be very beneficial to them, but only really people that fall within that category. To other people, it's likely going to be detrimental to them. I'm being very quick here, but we have a second, which is the will of all. It sounds much closer to what we want. So it's a will that all people follow. But what Rousseau says is this is actually a type of particular will. It's that you've had someone who is very convincing, that has made a very large group of people all believe that they have the same wills, the same motives. The picture here is actually a video embedded, but it's of Monty Python, The Life of Brian, where he's talking to a group of people saying, "You're all unique," and they're replying, "We're all unique." "You're all individuals." "We're all individuals." One man says, "I'm not." And this is a particular concern of mine, which I'll highlight a little bit later.
Look, you've got it all wrong. You don't need to follow me. You don't need to follow anybody. You've got to think for yourselves. You're all individuals. Yes, we're all individuals.
I'll skip through. And third up, we have the general will. So the general will for Rousseau is where we find the common good. Third type, so it is different from the will of all, though it is something that all people follow. So it's supposed to be something which, kind of similar to a particular will. It is beneficial to each individual. But more than that, it should be the most beneficial thing possible to that individual. So there's some assumption there that when you're following a particular will, even if you are kind of changing the tax bracket so that it works better for you, or doing something which seems to better advantage you at the disadvantage of other, there should be another choice which is both better for you than that particular will and better for the society as a whole. The picture here I've got is the International Space Station. It's really difficult for me to think of a thing which is an example of this. I don't think we really have achieved something which we would call the general will or the common good in our society. And going back to the earlier point, the concern that I have around the will of all. So imagine, if you please, we live in a world where we have certain social media platforms, some very popular ones where people are sharing their conversations, their thoughts online. Imagine that that company also owns a popular over-the-top messaging platform. What's something? I don't know. Maybe they get involved with some, I don't know, Cambridge-based analytical firm. Crazy world, I know, but just imagine, entertain me and say that could happen. What we have there are tech companies who are taking data from us. They're using that data to think, what is the most convincing way that I can present this to the largest number of people to make them follow the same value as me? That kind of method of persuasion, getting all the people to follow your opinion, is not the general will. That is a will of all. From here, I'm going to move on quickly to John Rawls. Now, Rawls has, he's, again, a political philosopher, slightly more recent than Rousseau, but the concept here is the veil of ignorance. So another thought experiment, so I'm making you imagine a lot for 9 p.m. What Rawls asks us to think is, imagine we're at the start of a new society, and the caveats that he has to this is that we don't know anything about our own abilities, our strengths. So we are ignorant in that respect. We're kind of ignorant to our own ability. And we're also rational beings, and we are self-interested. And he asks how we would divide goods in society based on these pretenses. What Rawls argues is that we would try to share all things that can be shared evenly amongst all people, because it makes more rational sense to a self-interested actor to improve the worst possible situation they could be in than to take the best situation and make it ever so slightly better. If you want to read more about this, it's kind of the idea of diminishing marginal utility, is that if you're someone who has no money at all and you're given £10, that could make a huge difference to your life, or a great difference to the number of things you can do. If you've got £100, £10 still makes a difference, but if you've got £1 million, £10 means very little to you. Rawls also argues that we're not going to have complete equality in the society, that there will be things which cannot be divided entirely evenly. And when that happens, he argues again, we should take that thing, can't be distributed evenly, and give it to the worst off in society because of that diminishing marginal utility. It's better for us to give that bit extra to us when we're in the worst situation than to give it to someone who already has a lot, because it makes a far greater difference to our lives. This is a concept within the common good, so I think it's an important thing there where when we have the government which collects a certain amount of tax from people, and that tax could be distributed evenly amongst everybody in the population. But I don't think that is the correct approach. It's completely possible, and in fact, included in concepts of the common good, that we can divide that unevenly. It's more about equal access to opportunity. And if that means certain people in society need more money to be spent to reach that level, that's what we should be going for. It's also not arguing that we would have some completely fairy tale society where everybody agrees exactly on what's going on. So here we could imagine that you're with a group of friends on a Saturday night. You've got 5 friends. 4 of them want to go out bowling, and 1 of them wants to go out for a pizza. So what we ask ourselves here are their convergent values that we could agree upon. So it seems that 1 person disagrees, 1 person wants to go for the pizza, 4 want to go bowling, but the convergent value for that person that wants to eat the pizza is time with friends. They are better off bowling with friends than pizza alone, even if pizza is the activity that they want to do. And again, this in the context of the common good. We're not suggesting in a society that everyone would agree with exactly every decision that is made by that government. There is more than enough opportunity for people to disagree, but they should agree with certain convergent values of that society. And how does this go wrong? So back to Rousseau. Rousseau is also known for the concept of natural man. Natural man is, for Rousseau, it is, I should say, very much a man who is quite isolated, kind of hunter-gatherer, eats berries, very strong, doesn't really suffer from any diseases. And Rousseau, his reference to women, it's very, very poor. He describes women as something that natural man only encounters for procreation, then leaves again. And Rousseau, he in fact very heavily accounts the decline of natural man down to women. And this is important. So Rousseau, the person who is one of the kind of foremost proponents of the common good, has taken women and basically seen them as being less than human. So he's saying that we can have the common good and we can just write these people out of that view. That's wrong. That's not what we should be doing. And I like to think in our society today, we have gone beyond this. We've gotten better. And we're not going to make that same choice as Rousseau. But that doesn't mean we're perfect either. We may be more inclusive, but there could be people that we're missing out from society. I've learned a lot from running this event of things that I didn't consider, and more opinions, more points of view that we need to have in mind when we're doing this sort of thing. My final reference comes from To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee, where you've kind of got 2 stories running in tandem throughout this book. You've got one which is the children primarily through the eyes of Scout Finch, and they're curious about this neighbor, Boo Radley. He's kind of enigmatic. They're kind of scared of him, but the main core of the story is their father, Atticus, who is defending Tom Robinson in a trial. So Tom Robinson is a black man who has been falsely accused of rape, and that's how he's tried. He's not tried as a man who has been falsely accused of rape, he's tried as a black man falsely accused of rape. And for that reason, he does not get a fair trial. I believe the majority of people on that jury knew that he was being wrongly convicted, but they put him in prison, and because of that, he lost his life. And throughout the story, we're seeing it through the eyes of the children, and it seems as though it's the children who weren't seeing it through that same poor perspective as the adults, who were seeing that Tom Robinson was just the same as any other person in their society. And we got one comment right at the end as well from Scout, where she's seeing a secondary character, Stephanie Crawford, I believe, who she was at the Tom Robinson trial, saw that, forgot about it in a day. Yet she's distraught about the things that are going on in Europe, because at the time, this was just before the Second World War. So she's seeing the things going on with Hitler, and she's distraught around that. But Tom Robinson, so close to home, it appears she couldn't care less. She's completely forgotten. So it was really the children that didn't have the influence of society and some of the things that we'll learn from that who were getting it more right. But they didn't get it perfect either. If you remember, there was Boo Radley, their neighbor. they've kind of tormented him throughout his whole life because they didn't quite know what he was doing. Right at the end, they're actually saved by Boo Radley, who brings them back home. And you have a moment where Scout's talking to Atticus at the end, who's saying, and they chased him and traced him, and never could they find him. But when they finally did, Atticus, well, he was real nice. And you have Atticus who's tucking Scout into the bed and says, well, most people are when you finally meet them. Sometimes it's about that. I think sometimes we need to make sure we're meeting those people to understand their perspective as well. So thank you. That was me going incredibly quick through that. If you're interested, I blog as well on Medium, and many of you are here through meetup.com, but if you've joined through the Microsoft Meetup community, please join mine as well. It's AI Ethics London. If you've come through mine, it's London AI and Data. So thank you all.
Again, a massive thank you to all our speakers and all of you for attending. Can we just have one more round of applause for all our great speakers? So me and some of my colleagues will be around for next few minutes. So if you have any questions, if you want to speak to us about anything, we'll be around. Thank you again.
Thank you all.